The day sensitivity became an accusation, the sentence came without warning, dropped in the middle of an apparently ordinary conversation, like someone casually commenting on the weather. "You're too sensitive." There was no anger, no sarcasm, no empathy, just that dry, indifferent tone of someone who thinks they're stating something obvious and harmless. But to me, that sentence came with the weight of a verdict. As if, in just a few words, my emotional existence had been invalidated. As if feeling, in that environment, were a flaw and worse, an unacceptable one. My boss said it while I was trying to explain how I felt after being publicly interrupted yet again in a meeting. I didn't shout, I didn't cry, I didn't dramatize. I simply asked for space. But to him, even that was too much. Being affected was too much. Showing discomfort was too much. And worse, trying to verbalize that discomfort was unforgivable. That's when I realized the invisible rule of that place. Feelings had to be swallowed. Otherwise, you became the problem. I stayed silent, not because I agreed, but because something inside me froze. I tried to process the sentence as he continued talking, changing the subject as if nothing had happened. As if he hadn't just shrunk my humanity until it fit into the label of too sensitive. I sat there, shoulders tense, stomach tight, voice trapped. My face grew hot not from embarrassment, but from helplessness. I wanted to scream. I wanted to say that feeling isn't a flaw, that sensitivity isn't weakness. But I didn't, because deep down, I had heard that before, in different tones, from different people, sometimes veiled, other times direct. Phrases like, "You take everything personally. It's just a joke. You don't need to exaggerate." Comments that slowly taught me to doubt my own emotions, to revise what I feel before letting others know, to shrink my pain, to protect others' comfort. But in that cold room, under that harsh white light that illuminated everything without mercy, something shifted. "You're too sensitive" didn't hurt only because of the words. It hurt because it exposed the cruel logic of that environment, a place where empathy is weakness, silence is virtue, and questioning is insubordination. A place where the indifferent survive the armored ones, the ones who learn to betray themselves in the name of professionalism. And I no longer knew how to pretend. In the days that followed, the sentence echoed inside me like dirty static. It repeated itself in the shower, on my commute, before I fell asleep. Too sensitive. Too. For whom? Compared to what? By whose standard? The more I thought about it, the clearer it became. It wasn't criticism. It was a mechanism, a tool of control, a way to make me doubt my own perception, as if my pain were invalid, as if my discomfort weren't reasonable, as if my reactions needed to be eliminated, not heard. And as I had done so many times, I stayed quiet. But this time, silence didn't come with compliance. It came with a subtle anger, quiet, but growing. Not because they called me sensitive, but because they tried to make that an insult. Because being sensitive, in that hostile environment, was what kept me alert. It was what helped me notice when something was wrong, even when everyone else pretended otherwise. It was what kept me from normalizing the violence disguised as corporate culture. It was what reminded me I was human before I was productive. The sentence meant to silence me, woke me up. But that day, staring at that indifferent expression, I didn't yet have the strength to respond. I just breathed deeply, swallowed the discomfort, and carried on as if nothing had happened. On the outside, I continued. On the inside, I began to change. Every time I swallowed my tears, not to seem weak, swallowing tears became routine, an automatic reflex, like breathing. The emotion rose, tightening my throat, trembling my chin, and I, well trained, suffocated everything before it could escape. Because I learned early, in that place, that tears delegitimize you. Showing emotion was like handing ammunition to the enemy. If you cry, people stop hearing what you're trying to say. So I quieted myself. I swallowed. I repressed. Every time something hurt me and I pretended it didn't, a part of me died. The coworker who made jokes about the way I spoke. The director who praised my work but always with a sharp but at the end. The project that was stolen from me and presented by someone else as their own. The meetings where my voice was trampled, ignored, silenced. In all those moments, tears came eager to escape and I pushed them back. Don't show it. Don't react. Don't ruin everything now. Those were the voices in my head, shaped by the culture around me. Be rational, be firm, be neutral, as if emotional numbness were maturity, as if being made of stone were desirable. But inside, I knew I was harming myself to maintain an image. One day, after an especially harsh meeting, I went to the bathroom and looked at myself in the mirror. My face was desperately holding everything in. It was like my eyes were screaming and my mouth whispered, "Stay." I remember thinking, how long? How long am I supposed to hide that this hurts? How long will I treat my emotions like enemies? But I left the bathroom, took a deep breath, and smiled. Again, being professional in that environment meant not feeling. And I wanted so badly to be recognized, respected, valued, that I betrayed myself day after day. Learned to swallow tears with coffee, to smile with red eyes, to hide shaking hands with fast typing, to pretend I was fine when I never was. And the cruel part, sensitivity doesn't disappear just because you ignore it. It hides, it accumulates, it becomes anxiety, insomnia, extreme fatigue. I began to get sick without realizing it. I started feeling an odd emptiness, an absence of myself, as if each uncried tear erased a part of my soul, and no one saw it, because on the outside I was impeccable, efficient, polite, and of course, a bit too sensitive. That label haunted me. Every time I tried to bring up emotional issues, concerns about workplace climate, or a human perspective, someone would say, "You're just more emotional. You feel more. Some people handle things better," as if my sensitivity were the deviation, as if caring were the flaw, as if feeling were the wrongdoing. I started asking myself, am I the one who feels too much? Or are they the ones who feel too little? But that clarity came later. At the time, I was just surviving, catching every tear before it fell, avoiding my own reflection so I wouldn't face the pain, swallowing, always swallowing, because crying there would feel like losing. So I cried in the car, in the shower, in my empty kitchen. Places where no one could see me, where I could be weak without consequences, where my pain had space, but always afterward, always away, always too late. Sensitivity became a burden, but still it kept me connected to myself, even suffocated. It whispered, "This isn't right, you don't deserve this, you're not exaggerating." And slowly, I began to listen. But before I could react, I had to remember every time I stayed silent, every contained tear, every denied emotion, every moment I had to hide who I was. And there were so many. The culture, hardness, hurry, and indifference. The office looked modern. Glass walls, colorful chairs, organic coffee in the break room. But after just a few days, it became clear, the aesthetic was just a shell. Behind the Instagram-friendly decor lived a quietly violent culture where performance mattered more than health, where output mattered more than people, and where feeling was always seen as weakness. It was a place where hardness was admired, hurry was required, and indifference was a currency. I remember the first time I truly noticed it. A coworker lost a close family member and returned to work only 2 days later. No one asked if she needed more time. No one offered support. The boss simply said, "Good to see you're committed." And everyone smiled, as if that were normal, as if pushing yourself through grief were admirable, as if suppressing pain were a badge of honor. There, pain had no space. It had to be hidden in spreadsheets, buried in meetings, drowned in productivity. Over time, I realized everything worked that way. The machine churned too fast for pauses, meetings started early and ended late, messages outside work hours were expected, replies had to be immediate, ideas brief, reactions neutral, no room for hesitation, less still for emotion. Whenever someone tried to introduce humanity into the routine, the reaction was predictable: awkward smiles, diverted glances, subtle jokes. I once suggested we consider the emotional impact of a campaign. The response was, "We're selling, not doing therapy." It hurt deeply, as if caring made me unprofessional, as if seeing people instead of numbers were embarrassing. But the most disturbing part wasn't the disdain for sensitivity, it was how indifference was rewarded. The coldest people were the most promoted. Those capable of cutting without hesitation were called leaders. Those emotionally numb were called mature, strategic, rational. The sensitive ones, unstable, fragile, too emotional. And so I learned to camouflage, practice firmer tones, hid trembling hands, controlled my breathing before speaking. Every meeting was a performance, every deliverable an attempt to appear unshakable. But still, my sensitivity leaked through, in my eyes when someone was mistreated, in my trembling fingers when criticism came loaded with contempt, in my sighs after meetings where everything was urgent, in the tears I swallowed, so I would still be taken seriously. The truth is, That environment wasn't built for people like me, people who feel, who care, who notice. Because sensitivity exposes what the system tries to hide: dehumanization, exhaustion, abuse disguised as excellence, violence disguised as productivity. And that's why sensitivity bothered them so much. Because feeling, in such places, is an act of rebellion. But at the time, I didn't have the strength to rebel. I just wanted to belong, to be accepted, to be promoted. And for that, I amputated parts of myself. But the body never forgets what was silenced. How sensitivity became a hidden form of resistance for a long time. I saw my sensitivity as an obstacle, something that made me vulnerable, something that made me wrong. I tried to mold myself into the expected standard: firmer, colder, more practical. But something always slipped through. An injustice I couldn't ignore, a tension I could feel under the surface, a comment that pierced deeper than it should. I thought this made me weak. Today I understand, it kept me alive. Sensitivity in that environment was like having an internal alarm that never turned off. While others rushed, I heard the silences. While others celebrated numbers, I noticed strained faces. While others praised results, I saw who was falling apart to achieve them. And even when I tried to shut that awareness off, it came back as anxiety, as exhaustion, as tears on the commute home. It was my body saying, something here is wrong. I tried to hide my sensitivity, but it was a sensor, a compass whispering limits, a signal flashing red whenever I crossed them. And without noticing, I began using my sensitivity as a shield, not to attack but to protect myself, to resist collapsing entirely. I started saying no to unreasonable deadlines, started questioning absurd meeting times, started offering help quietly, sending messages of care, talking about mental health even though I'd be judged, opening uncomfortable conversations, building small pockets of humanity inside a system that valued only output. It was subtle, it was risky, but it was survival. And then something surprising happened. Coworkers quietly, in private, began to seek me out, to vent, to confess they couldn't take it anymore, to admit they also cried in secret, that they also felt ashamed for being human. I realized my sensitivity wasn't an exception. It was everywhere in others too, just hidden. Everyone was pretending, everyone was performing strength, and that gave me courage. I began seeing my sensitivity not as a defect, but as a gift. Not a romanticized one, a raw one, a gift that lets me feel the room, sense people, catch tension, see what others ignore. A gift that costs, but also saves, because it was sensitivity that kept me whole, that kept me from becoming a machine, that kept me human, that kept me alive. And when I understood that, everything changed. People still called me sensitive, but now I answered with pride. I am. Feeling is how I survive. Feeling is how I resist. The response I never managed to give until now. For a long time, I rehearsed responses in my head. Every time I remembered that sentence, "You are too sensitive," I imagined entire conversations, arguments, perfect comebacks, lines that would show he was wrong. But in the moment, as always, I stayed silent, because answering meant exposing myself, and I was tired of being exposed simply for feeling. Now, with distance and the clarity that only comes after collapse, I know what I should have said. Not to win an argument, but to honor the part of me that always knew the truth. The answer I never said is simple, but definitive. You call me too sensitive, I call it surviving. Because while others ignored the signs, I felt them. While others accepted absurdity as normal, I questioned it. While others numbed themselves, I recognized exhaustion in people's eyes, and that didn't make me less professional. It made me more human. You wanted me to be immune, to smile at humiliation, to pretend everything was fine while I fell apart. You wanted a robot, a stone, a wall. You wanted me to fit a mold that kills, but I'm not made of steel. I'm made of nerves, stories, wounds, and instinct. And that instinct saved me. It pulled me out of that environment. It led me to ask for help. It taught me that crying isn't loss of control, it is a healthy reaction to a sick system. Maybe you'll never understand that. Maybe you'll always see emotion as a flaw. Maybe you'll always believe sensitive people can't lead. But I now know. True strength belongs to those who feel and don't break completely. Sensitivity never stopped me from doing my job. What stopped me was an environment that made me believe feeling was wrong. What destroyed me was the fear of looking weak for not being cold. What made me sick was forcing myself into a mold that rejected me. And today, if I could look you in the eyes, I'd say firmly, if being too sensitive is a flaw, then I'm glad I was never perfect for you, because now I know. My sensitivity protects me, warns me, teaches me, connects me to others in ways your coldness never will. You can keep calling it weakness, I'll keep calling it survival, and more than that, courage. If you call me sensitive again, I'll thank you today. If someone calls me sensitive, I won't lower my eyes. I won't apologize. I won't correct myself. I won't step back. I'll thank them, because I understand now that the sensitivity many tried to erase in me is actually the deepest root of my strength. It lets me perceive what isn't said, hear beyond the words, connect with others' pain, be present in ways a hardened heart can't. In a world that values distance, coldness, emotionless productivity, feeling deeply is rebellion. It wasn't easy to reach this point. It still isn't. Being sensitive in a harsh environment is like walking barefoot on broken glass. You learn to step carefully, to protect yourself, to harden the outside, but the pain inside stays. And if you ignore it, it grows. If you disrespect it, it paralyzes you. If you betray it, it devours you. I spent years trying to fit in, trying to be less, trying to be quieter, trying to be smaller. But now I know. I don't need to shrink to fit. I don't need to be cold to be heard. I don't need to hide to be professional. If the environment demands emotional numbness to survive, then it's not a place worth living in. Today, my sensitivity is my compass. It shows me my limits, warns me when something is wrong, pushes me toward more humane spaces, guides me to people who also feel unashamed. And if someone ever looks at me again with judgment and repeats, "You're too sensitive," I'll smile and answer, "Yes." And thanks to that, I'm still whole, because sensitivity didn't destroy me, it saved me. It gave me the courage to stop, ask for help, rebuild. It helped me find a voice that no longer apologizes for feeling. Today, I embrace myself fully, every emotion, every scar, every swallowed tear, and every tear still to come. Sensitivity isn't a flaw to fix, it's a force to honor. And if the world isn't ready for that, the world can wait. I'm finally ready. The weight that gave me wings for so long, I tried to adjust, to mold myself, to fit, as if my sensitivity were a manufacturing defect, as if feeling deeply were a malfunction, as if my existence itself were out of tune. But now I see, it wasn't my sensitivity that was out of place. It was the place that didn't know what to do with it. What they called weakness was actually my danger alert. What they tried to silence was my precision compass. What they labeled exaggeration was my ability to perceive collapse before it exploded. And for that, I am grateful. Grateful for every tear that taught me about limits, for every crisis that reminded me life is bigger than productivity, for every tight breath that whispered, "You're not wrong for feeling." Sensitivity never stopped me from delivering results. Pretending not to feel did. Sensitivity never made me less professional. Hiding who I am did. Today, I walk differently, not apologizing for my intensity, but understanding that intensity is presence, that sensitivity is presence, that being fully there in every gesture, every word, every silence is a rare gift. And if someone asked me now, "Do you still consider yourself too sensitive?" I would smile, take a deep breath, and answer firmly, "Yes." And that's exactly what saved me.